Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of About Time with me, Chris Nichols. As you know, this is a series where I get to talk to people I've worked with over the years who've inspired and influenced me and where I want the world to know more about their work. I'm delighted that today's guest is Miles Cherry. Old friend, Miles, I'm so glad to have you here.
It's great to be here, Chris. Thank you so much for asking me.
No, brilliant. And Miles, you run an organization called React Acting for Business, which I think we started working together at least 20, maybe 25 years ago.
It's quite
Yeah.
scary. I think that's right. I think it's easily. React has been going for over 30 years now, so that would make
Oh,
sense. Yeah.
congratulations. That was a brilliant organization. But I don't want to limit you to being Miles from React. I mean, how do you introduce yourself these days?
It's a really good question. I actually sneakily listened to some of the previous podcasts you've done, Chris, and I know imposter syndrome comes up as a topic sometimes. So my official title now is executive chairman of React. I never introduce that sounds far too grand to me. So I never introduce myself as that. I'm Miles. I run a business that is a learning and development business, and we make things experiential and give people practice and rehearsals of conversations. I say something along those lines.
Yeah. And well, I mean, I have worked with you, as we said, for about 20, it must be knocking on 25 years. And when I think of the people I've worked with whose work has made a massive difference to a large number of people, you know, you and the actors in your team feature really highly in that because it's just such terrific, visceral, memorable work. How do you come to be doing it?
Thank you. Yeah, so very good question. I'll give you the kind of potted. This is a long story, and I'll keep the potted version. So I I did a degree in film and drama a million years ago, and I actually started working for the BBC, and I became working behind the cameras at the BBC, and I was an assistant floor manager in BBC studio management for a while. But I'd always harboured an ambition to be an actor, to be a performer. And there were one or two things that happened. I got the opportunity to go to backpack around the world for about a year and a half. I paused my TV career, and whilst I was away, um, at the top of mountains, as it were, and things like that, proverbial mountains, I just thought, you know what? If I'm ever going to be an actor, now is the time to do it. I've broken my glittering TV career. So, and actually, my old boss at the BBC said, you know what, Miles, we'll give you a year. So if you don't come back in a year, we're not going to hold your job open anymore, but we'll give you a year. So very generous. Anyway, cutting to the chase, I came back and I became an actor.
Mm.
My amazing stage career kind of didn't, we're waiting for all the grand roles and all that. That didn't really happen. But what did happen early on was I got involved with a management trainer, ironically at the BBC, who asked me to come in and play a couple of characters
Ah.
for an appraisal training program. And at the time, I thought I was doing all sorts of temp jobs as you do as an actor, and I thought, you know what, this could be great. I'll do this, and as I say, while I'm waiting for those great roles, this could be something we should fill in the diary. And of course, what happened was that React, as it became, so the drama-based training, massively
Mm.
took off in those early days. My acting career, not so much. Um, and that's kind of how I got into it. And just to follow that story through a little bit, in the old days, we're talking 30 plus years ago, there weren't very many people doing drama-based training or actors working in the corporate world. And so
Mm.
it's seen as being wildly exotic, quite sexy to have actors come in and do stuff. Um, but very quickly, it became a little bit more rigorous. So people started to want to know where we recruited our actors from, what standards we were looking for, what skill base we had, knowledge base we had. And so very quickly it got quite serious and a bit more rigorous. But as time has gone on, and this is 30 years ago, we now, as I say, position ourselves more as almost an experiential training company using actors and drama-based methods. We work all over the world. We've got associate actors all in, many continents around the world, all of whom, by the way, we've met face to face and trained up in the kind of React style. Um,
Yeah.
and I look back at it now, Chris, and I think, when I started the business, I started it on a Brother typewriter. That tells you how long ago it was. In my bedsit somewhere in Ealing in London. Um,
Yeah.
now as I say, we do all sorts of international work, and it's transformed really. Anyway, that's yeah, that's a
That's a
long.
fantastic story, though. So I didn't know about the backpacking in the mountains. Um, I've got to ask at the BBC earlier in the series we had Mark Harmer, who was a sound engineer at
Yes,
the
I
BBC.
know, Mark. Yeah.
Do you know Mark from his
I
BBC days?
really crazily, I know Mark from the BBC days because he was involved, I think, in a drama group that my brother, who also worked at the BBC, was involved in. There is some kind of connection. My brother was a studio manager in Radio 2, and I think knew Mark. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
My brother went on to become very senior in Radio 2. Um, but then Mark, I know, became part of the kind of learning and development faculty at the BBC. So our
yes,
paths crossed many
yeah,
times. And Wood Norton, I remember bumping into Mark at Wood Norton and
right,
doing some work
okay,
with him. So
brilliant.
yeah, so I know.
Yeah, and Mark actually is married to Alison. I'm afraid I don't know her maiden name, which probably would have been her BBC name. And Alison was um, camera when he was sound. They met on an outside
Oh,
broadcast. It was Songs of Praise, actually.
oh.
Yeah, yeah. So, so where did you do your studies? You said you studied, was it film and drama?
I did film and drama at a place called Bulmersh College,
Oh,
which doesn't exist anymore. And at the time, it was the first degree course in the whole of the
mm,
country to do film and drama together.
wow.
And I was very, it's still regarded. I think it's now the part of the University of Reading, but it's a highly regarded program. Yeah, program. Here you go. It's because I'm so
Yeah,
used, so used to the modern what we do now, Chris. Yeah, it was a really prestigious degree course, and
yeah,
who've been on it will know. Those who know sort of thing. That it was
yeah.
very pioneering. What I didn't do, and this was, I went about my acting career in all the wrong ways really. So although I did drama and did lots of acting, I didn't go to drama school,
Mm.
which I kind of regretted because I then went off around the world, built up lots of debt, as you do. Those backpackers among us will know. Came back and was in the worst possible way to launch any kind of acting career is to be completely broke. So you have to work. Uh,
I thought it was compulsory.
Yeah, but I really did have to, I couldn't afford to spend much time, you know, tuning my instrument as actors will talk about. So, and I did do some acting. I had some good roles. I did a bit of radio. I did a bit of theatre. I'd worked in television, so I didn't do particularly television, although I'd already worked in television. But as I say, really, the world of corporate drama-based training took over pretty quickly. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's fantastic. So you mentioned coming into doing the kind of work that React started with by being invited to do it yourself, which I guess is often how entrepreneurs start off.
yeah.
I do like to pay tribute to these chance connections if we can. So you said it was a BBC person who gave you your first
Yes.
go. Can you remember
I
who it
very
was?
well. It's Anne Siegel. I don't know if you know Anne Siegel at the
No,
BBC.
but
I think
it,
Mark would know her. So
yeah,
yeah, really, it's very interesting that you say that, Chris, about the small connections and sort of
yeah,
luck, I suppose. And I count myself very lucky in those early days to know Anne and to get invited in. I always, I mean, there is always a certain amount of luck in life, isn't there? And but I also think there's something about taking those opportunities. And one
yes,
one of the
yeah,
things that I sometimes say to budding entrepreneurs or people who are interested, I say, that's the bit. Make the most of those connections, not in a nepotistic way, but make most of those connections. There's a wonderful phrase, isn't there, or a bit of a hackneyed phrase about luck is the crossroads where preparation and opportunity meet, and the other one is the harder I practice, the luckier I get. I think that was
yeah,
Gary Player or something, wasn't it, the golfer?
yeah,
That I really believe that though. I worked very, very hard to ride my luck. Let's put it like that.
yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
no, Anne
and
Siegel, big props to Anne Siegel.
yeah, brilliant. So if you don't mind, let's go back to um, how you even recognize from that moment, getting a chance to do it yourself. How did you recognize that there was a business to be created there?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you intelligent answer in a second or two. To begin with, it was just for me, it was wildly exciting to suddenly
Mm,
find myself in business. So it was very exciting, and I kept getting referred on. Obviously, did a good job, so kept getting referred on to other people, and so that was very exciting. So it didn't feel like work. uh it was, yeah, it was great, and it was and more money than I could possibly dream of, and that's not to say it was a lot of money, but I really didn't have any money at all previously. So the fact that I was getting paid to act as well, to professionally act, was really very, very exciting and very, very energizing back in those days. I think the and I'd say this now as well, I think the power of drama based training, or particularly the humble role play or the humble practice conversation, is about the power of rehearsal,
yeah.
and
Mm,
giving people an opportunity to not just, when they come on a program, not just understand theoretically the skills or the theories or the strategies that they're learning, but actually to do them.
mm,
And we believe, or I believe, the best way of doing that is to practice in the most realistic way you can. And if it's a conversation between two humans, the most realistic way of doing it, other than actually doing it in real life, is to do it with a trained, corporately trained business actor.
mm,
Um, and I still, even now, we've done a lot of thinking over the years, as you can imagine, about what it is, how we communicate. It is what it is that we do. How can we communicate the power? And I come back to that thing of, it's rehearsal for real life. Why
mm,
wouldn't you, if you've got a difficult or challenging conversation coming up, why wouldn't you want to rehearse it and get some constructive feedback and have another go? And very much like actors do in the rehearsal room. Uh, uh, I'm sure people know this, but actors don't turn up to the rehearsals on day one with a fully formed character, fantastic performance, knowing exactly what the motivations and purpose of those characters are. It's very much an iterative process, and exploring, and all the rest of it. And so you just apply that across to, as I say, these real life challenging conversations, which could be, a job interview, a performance management conversation. It could be something social. It could be you're just about to propose to a partner or something like that.
mm.
Why wouldn't you want to rehearse that? Make sure it's as good as it can be. So yeah,
Yeah. Mm, yeah. And do you have any idea how many actors have worked? For example, if you take Ashridge,
yeah.
how many actors have worked with an organization like Ashridge? It must be many, many, but I'm just,
Do you know? I don't know the answer. So we have something like, around the world, about 250 actor associates. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe that's too many, but I think that's roughly that, around the world, about 250 actor associates. Um, in the UK, we probably have, I don't know, 75, and I would say of the core group, inevitably
yeah.
there is a core group which
Mm,
work with you regularly, your best people, as it were. I don't know. I would say 40 or 50 people must have worked with
yeah. Isn't
Ashridge.
that amazing? Brilliant.
Um, yeah, yeah. So the relationship with Ashridge has been, very, very positive for us, and long lived now, as you've been
Yes.
saying,
And local, which
and
is
and
another,
and pretty local. Yeah, yeah,
uh,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, that's great. Because I remember um, the time I worked with you most extensively was when I was with Megan Rates looking after the Future Leaders program, which was at that time a very edgy simulation where
yeah,
the whole thing was a live simulation in which actors played a couple of different kinds of parts. And that's where I met your team mostly. But I think I first came across them through Ashridge Consulting, Hugh Pigeon, and people like that who brought drama into
yeah.
um, consultant development and coach development for exactly the reason
Yes,
you
yeah,
said.
yeah.
Uh, and like Rory Hendricks
Yes,
got
yes,
very into some of the Shakespearean work, and I remember Nick Deal and
yes,
colleagues doing some Shakespearean work as an Ashridge Consulting Development Day,
yes,
which I was part of, and
yes. That's right.
was hugely positive.
Eric DeHaan as well did some work with the kind of Shakespeare texts, and as well as
Yeah,
Rory as well. So yeah, I mean, these are all names that I, say
Yeah,
hello to these people if you're in touch with them, Chris, as well, because
yeah,
yeah, I haven't seen some of those people for quite a while.
yeah. Mm. So tell me a bit about the story of React from because I know about the work you did with Ashridge, which was like the conversation work and sometimes more extended improvisational role play work.
Yes.
But you've done all kinds of things. You React has embraced much more than
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, tell me a bit about React.
Yes. So React has evolved over the years. So we very much started as purveyors of actors. So if you sometimes they're referred to as role play companies. It's a bit of an old fashioned
Yeah.
term now in our world, but role play companies. So you wanted to hire some actors for a role play, you'd come to a role play company like React and you'd book so many actors, and then probably, I don't know, 5 to 10 years in, people started, because they liked us and they liked our energy and they kind of what we did. They started to say, do you deliver training,
Mm.
specifically presentation skills?
Yes.
As you can imagine, there's a real sort of connection there. And at the time, I'll be really honest, I thought, well, not really. No, I mean, okay, gosh. um, but quickly, with encouragement from clients, and I'm very grateful to lots of people over the years being very encouraging and supportive and helping build the business with me. These are clients, and there's also colleagues as well.
Mm. Mm.
But anyway, we did presentation skill, and then of course people start saying, you do presentation, you don't do this, do you? Or you don't do difficult conversation, or you don't, we haven't got a facilitator for this. Could you do, so the business kind of evolved, and I think we recognise that we have quite a lot to offer in the world of learning and delivering things. Just one counter to that, we don't, for example, do strategy or the kind of stuff that Ashridge would do, as just as an example. But those kind of skills based programs, we do a lot of that sort of thing. And then
Yeah.
as time has gone on, we've got into other areas. So the whole area of sort of personal impact and presence, storytelling is a big, very zeitgeisty kind of subject at the moment. But also things like videos, making videos.
Yeah.
We may come on to talking about AI at the moment. We're exploring ways that we can work with AI. So one of the things I would say that we are very good at is kind of reading what's going to happen, reading the room, what's the latest thing, what else can we offer, and just kind of building out React's offer. So we do a lot now. We have a lot of different offers. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. Well, I mean, maybe we maybe we could go there. I mean, in terms of the AI, because I can't even imagine what the frontiers of that might be. It's probably limitless. But
Yeah.
what's exciting you at the moment?
What's exciting me, I think, is that I think we are at the beginning of a brand new age, and I don't know quite what it brings. And again, Chris, I'll be honest. Um, to begin with, I thought, well, actually, is this the end? Is this the end of it all? Is this the end of learning and development? Because already people can gain huge amounts of knowledge just by Googling. And now you have things like ChatGPT, where information is available to you literally within seconds, etc. So,
Mm.
um, and there is also some work being done with avatars who can role play with you. So, our meet and drink, which was role playing, those sort of basic role plays, could in the next few years, I think, be subsumed, as it were, by an avatar, a bit like we're on screen now with each other. There's nothing to say that I'm real. You've seen the technology. I could now be an avatar, and you could, be role playing with me. So I was a little bit worried to begin with, just to reassure people and actors and clients. I don't think that's really going to happen. I think avatars will take over a certain sector of work, but I'm not sure. I think the human connection is very, very important to people still. But maybe come back onto that a bit later.
Yeah.
So I've had the mindset of being excited by it rather than threatened by it. I'm thinking, so
Mm.
what does this mean? What can this? I'm trying to think of a good example now. But in terms of creativity, something like Chat GPT is a wonderful creative partner. I don't know if you're using it, Chris. Be interested to
Mm.
know, actually. But just give me some ideas about how to, I need a scenario around, neurosurgery, and of course,
Mm.
it'll give you some ideas. Now you still have to work with those ideas. You still have to kind of develop them into something. And again, what we then do is obviously we're going to work with our team of actors to make those scenarios come to life, etc. But it's just a
Yeah,
great creative tool. And I don't know. I don't know what the frontiers are, but I'm excited. I think that's the mindset I'm choosing.
brilliant. Yeah. And do you have a now this a strange question, but
Mm.
do you have a sense of where your ideas come from?
Yes. Well, yes, and yeah. So what you've hit on, I think, is something which I've realised. So this is not
Mm,
necessarily where my ideas come from, but when I was young, particularly when I was an actor, and I'm pretty much of a creative now in some ways, but what
yeah.
I would have classed myself as much more of a creative back in those days. As a young man, or a young person, I believe that creativity was almost like a God-given bolt of lightning, and that the real trick would be to come up with the original idea, which no one
Yeah.
else had thought of. And now, as I've got older, and I've actually worked with a lot of other creatives, including some, high achieving creatives. Of course, the creative process is about living and experiencing lots of different things and taking ideas and putting them together and coming up with something new. It's rare that you come up with the lightning bolt, brand new creative idea. So I'll give you an old-fashioned. This is an old example, but a
Mm,
good one really, which was that we needed to come up with a drama-based method where you're able to have two characters debating a subject which would be very relevant to the audience, maybe even controversial, maybe spiky, maybe dangerous. Um, but that's what this particular client wanted. And I thought about, well, how could we do that? We do a thing called form theatre, which is not quite the same thing. That's a different exercise. How could I do this? And I thought at the time about those American chat shows like Jerry Springer. Uh,
yeah.
uh, and so what we did was we put together a Jerry Springer show using an actor, using a presenter and then a few actors. So you had different people with different views coming on and arguing, and we actually stage managed some fighting and all that, made it quite funny and fun. Um, anyway, the reason I mention that's a very good example of where you take something which is just out there, you're seeing, you're noticing, and you think, okay, what could we do then to bring something else, add something to it and make it have in our case, an educational kind of rationale behind, or educational reason for doing something like that. I'm just trying to think of something more recent as well
Yeah.
with. Um, I'm trying to
Yeah.
think. There's
Yeah.
so much. I
Well,
mean, sorry,
well,
go
don't. I mean, I'm going to say. Well, first of all, don't worry because one's enough. But you
on.
reminded me of, there's a really nice piece of work by Steve Johnson. I think it's called "Where Do Good Ideas Come From" or something like that.
Mm,
And what I love about Steve's work is the what's it called? Chance. I think it's chance favors the connected mind.
right.
And it reminds me of what you were saying earlier about the importance of the connections that we've both noticed in our time,
Mm,
um, but also that sometimes hunches and half-formed ideas can't do anything until they meet the other half, another hunch, another half-formed idea, or
yes.
a technology that has come into the world for something that could now be used over here in a new way. And
Yes.
I when I'm working with entrepreneurs, I see that a lot cropping up in their story. I'm hearing it a bit in yours.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing about that thing of connections is other people, actually. So, um, one of the important things to say about React is that, of course, I mean, it started, it was me, I'm the founder. Um, but of course, other people get involved. So I've got many people, just to name check some people, Dave Berman Howarth, Adrian Cook, Tina Worth, who was our incredible administrator and powerhouse. All those people have helped, evolve the business, and brainstorm, create. It's very much about that, and I like to, the way I sometimes categorize it, that idea of the outs the chance favors the connected mind is just being awake, noticing what's going on in the world. Sometimes it's nature, or it's TV or media, or it's a writer, but it's just that thing of really staying awake, and aware of what's around you.
Yeah, that's another thing that's cropped up in actually in several of these podcasts. And one of the things I love about them is the connections between stories.
Mm.
Um, and there is something in there about yeah, the noticing. Yeah, just being alert enough to be curious and notice and be curious about what you've noticed. What how might that be interesting for my clients? How might that be part of
Yes.
something new?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, absolutely. Um,
yeah,
and it goes on, doesn't it? I mean, it never stops, I think, which is the other thing, which I think is important. Sometimes people say to me, well, you've done it now. It's, well done. I mean, surely you must pat yourself on the back and sit back and and of course, I think I think anybody in business actually will tell you that you can never do that. You've always got to keep moving and
yeah.
looking for the next thing. Um, yeah, I just think that's a truth, and keep making those connections, whether it be
Mm.
with people or things.
And that's lovely. So I've got a strong sense from all of this conversation, but particularly from that you're not thinking of stopping anytime soon. You're you're still doing it. So
Yeah.
what I mean, why? I mean, why? What's keeping the fire burning?
Yeah, a really interesting question, Chris, because I'm of a certain age now. I won't divulge, but I'm of a certain age, like a lot of us are. Um, um, and people are saying, well, what about retirement? What's the next stage? And I, I'm still very, very motivated. I still work very, very hard at doing what I do, and actually, even small little jobs for clients, which I probably shouldn't get involved in, I still really care about, and I still get involved. And I've thought about what is that. Um, I kind of love and hate it. I think a lot of people relate to work like this. Um, I hate that there is a degree of stress, there's a degree of pressure, there's a degree of deadlines, and wouldn't you rather be off having a walk with the dog in the country and all that sort of stuff. But there's also a love. I think I do love what I do. I really like helping people. I really like helping people develop. Um, I really like working with my colleagues. I mean, you mentioned all those actors, many of
Yeah,
whom are friends and great people. I mean, one of the things we look for in React is, decent, nice people who are good to be with and fun to be with and all the rest of it. So yeah, I kind of, and actually, the other thing, and this is the fundamental thing, is I haven't finished it yet. So
yeah,
now I'm
yeah,
not a serial. I'm very jealous of serial entrepreneurs. And say, oh yes, no, I've got 20 businesses and all that kind of. I've only got one, but it's still, I feel, a work in progress. I haven't finished it yet. And I hope I don't run out of time to finish it. Finish it. I don't know what finishing means even. But it
yeah.
still feels like an adventure, and it still feels like it's building, and there's still exciting possibilities. I don't really know what they are, but I'm still want to be in and doing it and part of that journey.
Yeah. Well, do you know that's very similar for me in the sense of Game Shift. I mean, Game Shift itself is, you know, it's almost like a theatre production, and it's run for 10 years.
Yeah.
Um, it's not going to run for another 10 years in that same form.
Mm.
Um, but I've no plan, to stop doing the work
Yeah.
because the world needs the work. It
Yes.
may it may not need exactly what I've been doing for, my work has moved in chunks of probably 7 years to a decade at a time of
Mm.
variations on a theme, and it builds.
Yeah.
But and I think there's a big difference between completing something, saying, "All right, that's enough of that," and finishing. I'm just stopping. No, I completed that. And that's something great to build on, and there's much more. Yeah,
Yeah.
much more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a advertising media figure called Michael Wolff, very
Uh-huh.
very famous in his day. I don't know if you've come across him, but he writes about getting up in the morning with a push in your back. So the idea
Uh-huh.
being, if
Yeah.
you're on purpose, if you're doing something that you really love, you kind of you don't have to kind of drag yourself out of bed to do it. You should be
Yeah.
really springing out of bed. And people who know me will laugh. I don't spring out of bed in any shape, form, or whatever. But nevertheless, I'm very motivated every day. I'm thinking, okay, what do I got to do today? What, I'm on purpose, as it were. And I'm sure it sounds as if you're the same, Chris, with Game Shift as well.
Yeah. There, yeah, there's something in that, yeah, metaphorically rather than literally, the springing out of bed,
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah.
In that, yeah, I would know I'd had enough if I if I was thinking I just can't be bothered to do this anymore.
Yes.
And that's how I know the difference between a job, kind of work I happen to be doing, and my work, capital W, which is a different thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, in some ways, it sounds almost spiritual. Like the fire in your belly, the work with people. Is it?
Again, really great and interesting question. I was thinking a little bit I knew we were going to do this podcast. And I was thinking a little bit about, what is it? What are my drivers, and is there a spiritual element to it? So I'm very driven by a couple of things. And I guess again,
Mm.
so we common to a lot of people with no terrible family traumas or anything like that.
No.
I had a very nice upbringing in the 1970s, very very happy, very middle class, very vanilla, I suppose, and very happy actually. But nevertheless, there's an element of competition with your family, with friends. So that's something and I don't know where that comes from. That's something which has driven me.
Mm.
I seem to care very deeply about what I do and my clients in a very personal kind of way. And I think
Mm.
I'm getting onto the spiritual thing. I'm kind
Mm.
of very driven to serve,
Yeah.
and I really care.
Mm.
So one of the things that I get upset about is if a client is very transactional.
Uh-huh.
And this is just my person. This is just my personality. But if it really is just, they don't really care about the learning or the thing or the fact that it clashes with my sense of values and what I want to do
Yeah.
for them and with them. And I did some coaching at one point. Sorry, I was coached at one point by a fantastic coach called Emma Collins. And we landed on the fact that one of the things that I seek is harmony. I want things. I'm very emotional. I'm very personal, emotional creature, and really,
Yeah.
what I want in the world is harmony. So
Mm.
I don't really want conflict. I don't really want to just do business and for it to be a transaction. I want it to be something which is, I mean, spiritual. Maybe that's a bit of a reach
Yeah.
for that. But
But
there's
I,
something in there.
yeah, but I'm hearing something, whether you label it spiritual or values based or deep purpose, but there is something about the importance of human beings and growth and development in there
Yeah.
and if I was to put this into my kind of the Buddhist language that has run through some of these episodes, like Michael Tuskalson, in some ways, there's an alleviating suffering, or that actually, sometimes people are tormented by a work relationship, a terrifying speech they have to make,
Mm.
and the work helps to relieve suffering for
Yes.
me. And the muscle memory, which Megan talks about and Eve Poole talks about it, that builds from doing the rehearsal is profoundly important. And I've benefited from myself, even though I've never worked one to one with one of your actors to
Mm.
prepare, because I've worked 100 times or 500 times with your actors
Yeah.
on all kinds of conversations, and I've learned so much from it, and
Mm.
it has relieved a load of suffering in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting you say that as well, because I do some personal impact coaching, which I probably love almost more than anything. I would do it for free, absolutely, and I do sometimes do it for free. And and sometimes you literally lift a burden away from somebody by just, giving them a practice, giving them some feedback, and sometimes spotting something, and you just say, "Do you know what? You don't." I know in coaching you talk about sometimes people having self-limiting beliefs or have
Mm.
been told things by people which they then hold on to for years and years and years. And there are moments where you literally see somebody almost like shed the weight.
Yeah.
In that moment, they really are transformed in some way, but the weight has come off them because they've done that thing, they faced that challenge, or they've slain a dragon, a dragon that they've been carrying around for years and years and years, and suddenly they've done this thing and they've slayed the dragon and freed themselves up, and it's I mean, I that's my favorite kind of work, absolutely.
Yeah,
uh,
wonderful,
yeah.
wonderful. So, so we've established that there's this beacon, this blazing fire of purpose in there. We've established that you're not giving up anytime soon. We've established that you're playing with the edges of where AI might come into all this. And you said, oh, we might say something more about that.
Yeah.
So where are you? Yeah, what's on the horizon for you?
Wow, that's a very. I think more. So more, for me personally, I think
Mm.
more coaching work in the future. And when I say
Yeah.
coaching, I'm very specifically talking about that sort of personal impact coaching and helping people in that way. Um, as a business, we are looking at the area of trust as something which
Yeah,
society needs more and more of. If you look at these troubled times, um, there's not a lot of trust at any level, actually. I think we very often don't trust each other on an individual basis, but also even between countries on a macro level. So we've got an offering coming out around that very soon, and a book that my colleague Adrian Cook has written around that, hopefully coming out soon. The AI thing, I'm just trying to. So at one point we thought, okay, are we going to have to embrace this idea of avatars? So should we turn ourselves into an organization where we are no longer? You can tell Chris already that we're not going to do this, but anyway, we get rid of our actors, and we just have a bank of avatars or whatever, and you just dial up a conversation with an actor, in inverted commas, an artificial actor, a synthespian, I've heard them called, actually. Um, and we kind of looked at that and thought about that, and I don't think that is gonna happen. I just don't think it is. I think I did a post on LinkedIn. I think you responded to it, actually, and I just flipped it out there. And I said, do we still want to be working face to face
yeah,
in training rooms, and do we, a human connection still really important? And overwhelmingly, people said, yes, it really is. We still want to be working face to face. We can work online after COVID. People are used to
yeah.
working online, but really, we want to be face to face in the classroom with people. Um, the one that yeah, the thing with AI is, and I think society is that the subject matters that we train people on, you and I, may change. So at the moment, it's about work, it's about performance, it's about productivity, etc. I wonder whether the world of leisure will be the next. So how do I make the most out of my leisure? Because
Uh-huh.
there may not be so many jobs around. It may well be that leisure becomes, and helping people deal with that, making leisure more productive for them, enjoying their leisure, embracing their leisure. Those difficult conversations, that there might be difficult conversations around that which people need to be practicing or rehearsing or getting coaching on,
Yeah,
rather than turning out 100 widgets an hour or
yeah,
something.
fascinating. Hmm. And it also has making me think about other connections in this series, like John Alexander's work around citizenship and participative, deep citizen work,
Yeah,
and the ability to build trust, the ability to have conversations in that, citizen democracy space,
yeah,
so ethical activism space.
yes,
It's incredibly important because it's so easy for those highly energized spaces to be polarized and fall into binaries that are really unproductive and result in lousy conversations and poor work,
yeah.
when a more generative, more skilled conversation is exactly what we need.
I to completely agree with you 100%. And it's
Yeah.
frustrating for me at the moment to see those very, extremes on both sides.
Mm.
And of course, people who are, it can be very erudite and convincing, but not, mm, I would believe not very kind, actually. That's the way of
No.
putting it. Not again, in the work we do. I'm really curious about other people's perspectives, regardless of whether I actually might agree with them politically or ideologically or in any other way. I'm still interested. I still really want to know what makes them tick, and I'm curious about that. And I sense in society that, or certainly anyway, in the kind of media and social media, that's sort of being hijacked, and it's not happening as much as it should do. So I think again that could be if we could call it a growth area, but I think those curious conversations where people genuinely are really listening and appreciating other people could become more and more important as we develop going
Yeah.
next 20, 30 years.
Well, long may it be so. Miles, we're going to have to bring the conversation to an end. There's so much more we could do, but I'm really grateful to you. Let me say a few words to the viewers to close it off. Then I'll come back to say a proper thank you before we end.
Okay.
So, everybody, it's been brilliant to have this session today with Miles. There's so much in Miles's work that links to other episodes in this series. We'll try to put in some links to help you to find the connections. Meanwhile, Miles Cherry, thank you so much for being here and opening up the world of React, actors in business, and all you do. It's fantastic stuff, and I'm so grateful you've been able to come and talk to us about it.
Thank you so much, Chris, for inviting me. I've really enjoyed it. So yeah, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Bye bye now.